champion, welcome, Danny Batten.
Number one. You win.
Hey guys, I'm Sai. Welcome to H Podcast Nation, the home of the Danny Batten MMA show. We've got podcast interviews on all sorts of subjects, from MMA to mental health to football, live and recorded. 4 shows a week: Monday, Wednesday, Friday and Sunday. You can find them on video versions at youtube.com/hpodcastnation, as well as the audio versions at your favourite podcast and radio platform. And of course, you can find links to our social media pages in the description below, and you can keep up to date with upcoming guests and shows and series on there. And we're going to be talking UFC today. Joining me to do so is former Cage Warriors champion, UK MMA legend. Just me and you tonight, Danny. Mr. Danny
Yes.
Batten. How are you, my friend?
Yeah, all good, all good. I enjoyed the weekend's UFC. It's quite a good one. So
Good
happy,
fights
smiles all around.
Yeah, these no fan shows have been good. I gotta say, we've been treated to some very interesting fights, exciting fights. It's been good, especially because I think we were both kind of apprehensive, weren't we, about what it was going to be like with no fans and no crowd.
Sure.
And I think they've been real good. I think
Yeah.
that very first show was we were a bit like, not sure we're going to like this, but I think it's gone on.
Yeah, I
It's been
think
good from that.
when something's, I think change is always, a bit of a worry, isn't it, for anyone? But something as big as having an audience or not having an audience, that's quite a big one to face up to. But it's great. It's some good positive spins. Okay, so you don't quite have the same atmosphere, but you do get a sense of personalisation by feeling like you're more so cage side, hearing all the blows going in, hearing the commentary echo, and hearing the cornerman so clear. And so yeah, it's had its benefits.
100%. I've enjoyed it. So just before we go into the gist of it all and the card, I'm going to talk about a couple of the bigger stories of the last few days, the last week or so. Been some interesting stories and rumours and headlines, and we'll start with the first one, the biggest one, I guess. There's some rumours that Conor McGregor might fancy fighting Manny Pacquiao in a boxing fight, and so basically, Conor McGregor tweeted a word which basically is Tina Tang Gyap KO, which translated, where's Manny Pacquiao from?
Is he Mexican? Is he not?
I'm not sure.
I'm not sure.
I got a feeling it's like Peru or something like that.
Maybe, yeah.
I'll have a check now. But anyway, it translates as "I accept," and I believe it's in Manny Pacquiao's, basically is in his native tongue, which got the rumor mill. What's the word? Rumor mill flying, as it were. But I think at the end of the day, Conor McGregor, if nothing else, is very, very good at getting those rumours flying. He knows what he's doing. He's very, very good at it.
Yeah, he manages to always get the attention onto himself somehow, some way. And if it ain't in the MMA world, it's in the boxing world.
Filipino.
Fair play to him for
I
it.
couldn't think what he was. Filipino he is.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah, I mean, Manny Pacquiao's not what he was, and I don't think he's as good as Floyd Mayweather is now. They still expect him to be too good for Conor McGregor in a boxing fight.
Yeah, I think someone like Pacquiao is going to take it to Conor McGregor more. I actually think it's a worse matchup for him in terms of boxing stylistically.
I
Pacquiao
gotta be honest.
will hunt him down.
Yeah, I gotta be honest. I think I I look at it and I haven't really got, I'll watch it. I obviously watch it. I got just more interest. I'd much rather, especially after that Donald Cerrone fight, I would rather see Conor McGregor have some big fights in the UFC now. I'm not really interested in seeing him go and do.
Me too. As a fan, Conor McGregor, to me, the boxing trick had been done once. I don't think it would create as much attention a second time.
No.
And
I
it
think
doesn't
it was
particularly
who it was
interest
with
me.
as well, wasn't it? Like him
Yeah,
and Floyd had been going
of
back and
course.
forth for years, and there was a bit of
Yeah,
history
I
there.
mean, both from different. They're some of the biggest trash talkers of each
A
respective
generation, isn't it?
sports,
Yeah.
and created obviously some big waves regards their abilities in each of their respective sports. I just wish they had mixed it up a little bit and maybe had done it with MMA gloves on or something like that. That was my wish and hope for it, to make it a little bit more even. I mean, for
Yeah,
someone to have their first pro fight against someone who's never lost,
yeah.
it
But then
just was never a good idea. But
Floyd Mayweather's not stupid, is he? He was never gonna give Conor McGregor any semblance of a chance in terms of
no,
doing it. Like I know he said, "Oh, we'll do it in a UFC cage and we'll have mixed rules." At some point, he said that, and it's like, he's never gonna do that because a couple of kicks from
yeah,
Conor McGregor and could be game over.
yeah.
Yeah, like Dana White doesn't seem too interested in that second time round. I don't think the money's
No.
there that was there previously as well, especially after COVID and stuff. Don't think people are going to pay $100 for a pay-per-view.
Yeah.
One of the other biggest stories was Khabib versus Gaethje announced for October.
Yeah,
UFC
exciting.
253. That's going to be a real interesting fight. I
Yeah.
think it's a brave fight by from the UFC's point of view, because make no mistake, like Khabib is Khabib, but there is a massive chance that Justin Gaethje could beat Khabib,
Yeah.
and if he does, I think from a long-term point of view, it hurts the UFC more because it takes away the Conor McGregor rematch, or certainly with the title, which I think that's the biggest fight they can possibly do in terms of pay-per-view buys and build-up and things like that. And would it still get the same buzz without the title? Possibly. I mean, it still get buzz,
Yeah.
but I don't know if it gets the same buzz if it's not Conor McGregor trying to get the
Yeah,
title
but
from him.
I mean, personally, come on, what would excite you more, seeing Conor McGregor against Gaethje or against Khabib? I would love to see him against someone like Gaethje. I mean,
There's
Khabib, if
loads
he
of fights
wins,
I'd rather see Conor fight than
yeah,
Khabib, I gotta be honest.
yeah. I mean, Khabib's going to do what Khabib does predominantly. If he's going to win, it's never going to be the most visual thing in the world. He's going to take you down. He's going to ground and pound you. He's not going to be pretty about it. I just think there's better viewing and better attention fights out there for someone like Conor. So I just think, hey, look, if Khabib loses and that's the end off, and he goes on his merry way and retires, I don't think it will harm the UFC. There's too many good talents around in that weight division right now.
It's insane.
What with that Chimaev, is it? Am I pronouncing that right? What with him
Chimaev,
coming
yeah.
up through? Yeah, he's someone else with very similar style that's now coming onto the scene. Okay, not in that weight division, but he's coming onto the scene that's going to captivate a lot of attention. He's creating his own mystique of invincibility. Even though it's very, very early doors. So yeah, I don't think it'd be harmful too much. I think it's a great fight, man. Who's your money on for that one? Where's your money going down?
I fancy Gaethje, mate. I honestly do.
Yeah, me too. Yeah, I do.
I just think Gaethje is insane. Like he can do everything exceptionally well.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
I just think for Khabib, I think Gaethje is more rounded. Like with Conor, you knew if Khabib got him down, it was going to be that fight. It was going to be Khabib's fight. Whereas with Gaethje, he'll happily go to the floor. So it's like, I don't think he's got the same advantage.
I mean, he almost definitely will get Gaethje down, but to what expense in terms of energy and potential damage? And is he going to keep? Is he going to keep him down? I mean, Gaethje's pretty damn good at not only sprawling and avoiding the takedown, but also getting straight back up. And you don't see him on the ground very long ever.
No.
So, it will be interesting. But then again, on the flip side of that, if anyone's going to quieten down such an aggressive fighter, it's going to be a Khabib. If someone's going to float all of his potential advantages, Khabib could be the one to do it. So it's going to be absolutely interesting. But yeah, I can't help but fall into the temptation to think Gaethje will find a way to end up hurting Khabib and stopping him, because we actually haven't ever seen Khabib hurt. I mean, how is he going to react when he's hurt? What's going to happen then? Is he going to be as effective once he's been stunned? Once
Never
he's
seen him
received a
get
few
hurt,
leg kicks?
like clipped, have we?
Yeah, so and I think that at some point in that bout, he's going to experience some kind of discomfort. And then what happens? What's going to happen to his cardio when he's feeling a bit of discomfort? What's going to happen to his cardio when things don't go his own way? Because he has had his own way pretty much all the way through his career. He's been that convincing, that dominant. So yeah, it's going to be super, super interesting. It really is.
Yes, indeedy. Yes, indeedy. So, Khabib. Yeah, I think I fancied Ferguson to beat Khabib as well. I wasn't as confident with Ferguson as I like with Gaethje. I just wonder if Khabib will able.
Ferguson would have settled for his back, isn't it? You just know Ferguson would have gone to his back, but he would have been dangerous there. But you could also just see the rounds slip away one after the other because of his acceptance to be on the back. Whereas someone like Gaethje is just not going to be there. He's not going to want to stay there. He'd be on his back looking to scramble back up, and as soon as he's up, he's going to be leg kicking, kneeing. And look how good his boxing was in that last bout. He's going to bang and bang hard with everything that he's got. Yeah, super. It's going to be excellent.
Yeah, and there was rumours of just before everyone sort of linked it to Pacquiao. There was rumours that they were trying to set up McGregor versus Gaethje, and then obviously they announced Gaethje versus Khabib, which makes you think, maybe they will maybe they will set up Conor versus the winner. Another little bit of news coming out of the UFC last night was the Scottish lady, Calderwood. She collapsed backstage after the fight.
Oh, wow, okay.
So, which is kind of weird. She took a bit of damage. I didn't think she took a great deal of damage. But she passed out after a loss to Jennifer Maia. She lost to an armbar.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it didn't go on very long at all.
No, and Joanne Calderwood was the quite heavy favourite. She was plus 800.
That's it. Yeah.
Sorry, I don't think that it's American betting odds. So Calderwood was plus 800, and Jennifer Maia was plus 140. But I'm not sure which way around it is. So she might not have been the favourite. I don't understand American betting odds. Basically, her heart rate dropped, and she was immediately taken to hospital soon after she had passed out. After the end of the bout.
Wow.
Apparently, she's stable and she's conscious. She's okay now. She was getting checked out. She fainted, which is weird that she was not the only person to faint, because one of the fights was called off because the fighter fainted just right at the start of the show. I know you watched the fights individually, don't you? But as they opened the show, they went backstage to a reporter and said that one of the fights was off. I'll just pull up who that was. So he had fainted backstage. He was all right. Apparently, it was just nerves. So it was Giles versus Holland, which was actually one of the fights I was looking forward to. Trayvon Giles fainted just shortly before the fight versus Kevin Holland, and I was really looking forward to seeing Kevin Holland fight. So they called that off. They think it was just a bit of nerves and like that sort of thing, rather than anything. He was up and about straight after. He wanted to fight and wanted to go ahead with it, but the doctors said, look, they're not going to take the risk, are they? When
that's it.
When a fighter's passed out before the fight, you just, and I respect that. You can't knock them for that attitude, I don't think. But yeah, I thought it was a pretty good card overall. Some interest, some good finishes, which was kind of quite interesting. A couple of good fights. What were your overall thoughts of the
really
fights?
entertaining. Yeah, I enjoyed it. The fight's pretty good. There's a couple of quick ones, which is okay to have into the mix as well, because that means finishes, and finishes are all great. So yeah, I enjoyed the card. I thought it was another good UFC.
So, how's your holiday going, mate? Anyway, meant to ask you.
Yeah, really good. Just drinking way too much.
So yeah, Danny's joining us from where is it? Czech Republic.
Yeah. I'm right on the north, right by the border by Poland. So get to enjoy a number of countries. Sort of like I'm real close to crossing over to all sorts of places over here.
So how long have you got left? How long have you got left out there now?
I think going to come back around about 16th.
That's not too bad. Just in time for Stipe and Daniel Cormier.
Yeah.
Okay, so the kind of main event of the prelims: Frankie Saenz versus Jonathan Martinez. First round, mate. Take us through with your thoughts.
Yeah, Saenz. It was clear from the get-go that he wanted the takedown, and it entered him really well on Martinez. Was trying the inside leg trips. It was looking like it was going to be good, but quite an energetic style to adopt against Martinez. Obviously, when you're chasing the takedown hard, and you're playing that smother game, you've got to be fit to do so. But I think once Martinez knew that was what Saenz was going to do, he started implementing not only good striking with his hands, but started implementing that teep and the knee, threat under the knee. And it just looked ever increasingly dangerous for Saenz to try to take Martinez down. He clearly couldn't strike with him for any set period. So it started off well for Saenz. In the initial onset of his clinch and takedown attempts, was unable to make anything of it. Martinez started to look dangerous as the round progressed. And Saenz started to look a little bit gassed for a first round. I mean, like I said, I know it takes a lot of energy to keep initiating that wrestle range and trying hard to not only not let your opponent escape and then trying to take them down and so on and so forth, and you've got the anxiety of the potential strikes coming at you. But to me, he started showing in his demeanour that he perhaps didn't have the cardio to try and push that sort of style that he was needing to push on someone of Martinez's striking ability. Martinez started to steal back that round, I felt, in that second half.
Just towards the end of the round.
Yeah, it started to look like, okay, I think I can see how this is going to go in the next round unless Saenz could come with a different strategy. He just lacked the tools. Because as we went into that second round, Saenz started to foul time and time again and was getting caught, and the teep from Martinez was really good. It kept him on the outside. Martinez striking just looked so dangerous. He looked such a predator in there. And Saenz was just looking more and more vulnerable as that round went on. He was looking ever so uncomfortable. I think it was in the second round, wasn't there? There was a timeout. I can't remember what it was for now. Was it for a finger putt? I can't remember what it was. That it was. So it's, he was needing any respite that he could to try to invigorate attempt to try and take Martinez down again. But Martinez, once he knew what Saenz wanted, he was having no part of it, and he knew how to not only defend it but counter it, and it was looking woefully dangerous. And going into that third round, Martinez just started taking over. It just started looking like a matter of time, and it was in the end. Saenz got knocked down. He just tasted blood. He was on him. Really give him no space. He was just tracking him down in a way where, with his way he was using that teep, he was closing in on Saenz, but keeping him that away from that wrestling engagement. I was really impressed with Martinez, actually. It was a pretty dominant performance over those 3 rounds, because Saenz could be a difficult customer. When someone's looking to smother you like that, you've really got to have your strategy in place with your striking and your footwork. And I really liked what choices he made regards his striking tool set to keep Saenz away from him.
Yeah, I thought his distance work was superb. He didn't go in close enough that Saenz could do anything from the wrestling point of view, but also didn't, he wasn't too far out of reach. He was still able to nail. He hit a couple of nice head kicks, and couple of those body kicks were brutal.
Yeah, he was really looking predatory in there. He really was.
And I thought Saenz started that first round pretty well. Like the very first round, he thought the first couple of minutes he did all right. And then after that, it was all Martinez. His work was great. I think it was the third round, maybe the second round. Martinez caught Saenz in the groin, and he seemed to be going for like an axe kick or like a teak kick to the body, and just as he sort of went forward and went to move his leg to the side to complete the kick, he just kicked him straight in the balls, which was brutal. But Saenz didn't look the same until after, once he came out for that second round. From the second round, he just didn't look the same at all. Martinez just didn't look. Saenz just didn't look the same coming out for that third round. And I saw quite a few fighters on social media saying his team shouldn't have let him come out for that third round. Did you think he looked a bit shaky when he came out for that third round, mate? Yeah, so I thought Saenz started pretty well, and then he kind of Martinez used his distance so well, and he hit a couple of head kicks. The body kicks were brutal. I saw a few people on social media saying that Saenz team shouldn't have let him come out for the third round because he looked so shaky and looked really just didn't look right. And third round he got kicked in the whatsits as Martinez went for like don't know what you call it, like a teak kick or an axe kick to the body, and as he came up, he just kicked him square in the plums, which not ideal for him. He took a few minutes to recover, but straight after that, as he was advancing on Martinez waited and waited and waited, and just as soon as he felt his back to the cage, he hit him with a beautiful knee straight to the jaw, and that was it. But there was a point earlier in the fight where I think Martinez got Saenz down and he nailed him a couple of times. I think it was just after a head kick. And he kind of went he hit him, and then he went to mount him, and he kind of stopped as if he thought the referee was going to stop it. The referee didn't stop it. And it was like, he probably should have finished the fight there. But I think he thought, come on, ref. Should we stop it? And the ref didn't.
Yeah. And I think there's so much attention around refs at the minute. I think even the fighters are not sure whether the refs are going to come in and stop them or not stop them. But you, as a fighter, you should just go. It's the ref's job.
You just go and do it.
You just got to keep going. And although obviously fighters' healths are ultimately at risk, the nature of the sport is you're in there. The potentiality to get hurt is there. You just keep going until the ref pulls you off. And if you do feel safe to pause in the action for the safety of the opponent, which can happen, I guess, and then so be it. But in that situation, he should have just kept going. Yeah,
you got to. You just got to crack on, finish the fight, and then worry about the opponent's health afterwards, I suppose. Next up, we had Lando Vannata versus Bobby Green. What did you make of this one, my friend?
Yeah. I mean, I really like watching both these guys fight. So to see them battle it out again was both exciting, but I'm always going to feel sad for one that has to lose. I mean, it just didn't disappoint. I know they're both very, very good strikers. And Bobby Green had a few things to say about Lando. Saying about how he's surprised that he was, even signed the contract because he felt he was that much better than him. But it was a closer fight than perhaps Bobby Green was thinking it was going to be, because to me it was still a close bout. But Bobby Green just edging it. He looked slightly the bigger man. His boxing was just a teeny bit sharper than Lando. Lando looked like he had to work harder for anything that he was going to get with his successes. And Bobby Green was just firing at those quick hands. And although it was very, very close, he was just, to me, slightly edging the striking. And of course, in that first round, he managed to get Lando down. And that, to me, just fermented that first round. With the second round, it had an interesting situation where Bobby Green was mixing up, although he was edging the strike, and he was mixing up the wrestling as well, as Lando did at times. He managed to take Lando down with a bit of a clumsy sort of single leg. And I say clumsy only because Lando decided to try and turn it into a bit of a guillotine attempt. And it was all looking good at one point, but Bobby Green was superb. He went round the other side of the guard, which took the pressure off from that guillotine, and managed to float any attempts from Lando to get any successes from his back. And back up to the feet they were. And he fermented that round too. And in that third round, it was again, whenever it did engage on the ground, you had Bobby Green on top, and the striking was beginning to wear on Lando's face. So, to me, Bobby Green won all 3 of those rounds, although every round was close and every round Lando was absolutely in it. He just seems to be just that little bit better everywhere, and a superb fight from Bobby Green. Really, really happy for him. Can't wait to see him move up the ranks.
Yeah, Bobby Green was very impressive. I gave second round to Vannata, but the first 1 and 3 I gave to Bobby Green, and I thought Bobby Green could have easily pinched the second round as well. It's not like I thought, Vannata was streets and streets ahead. I just thought he just maybe shaded it. But then when you take into account, I don't know, see, Vannata took Green down. It's still tough to score these rounds when they're as close as that. Green obviously took him down as well. Vannata really was looking for that guillotine choke as well. So I just kind of shaded it slightly to Mr. Vannata, but Bobby Green I thought looked really, really good, and I'm excited to see what's next for him and see where he goes, because it looked exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. He's definitely up there. He can definitely mix it with some of the big boys, and I'm sure we're going to see that for the next matchup. I think he's going to be stepping up a little bit more.
Yeah, 100%. Next up, we had Vincent Luque, who's ranked number 11, versus Randy Brown. Vincent Luque won in the second round, 4 minutes 56 of the second round, via a knee strike. What did you make of this one, mate?
Yeah, Luque really, really impressed me. Randy Brown is very, very good, and tall and rangy at that weight. Initially on paper, I thought Luque was going to, have a tough night on his hands, but the strategy he implemented was superb. We know Randy Brown's jab is essential for his strike building, and it could really be problematic with it. He both expresses really good cardio, really precise with it, and can become a real nightmare. But Luque targeted that leg from the get-go, and boy, he just didn't let up on it. And it really started to offset Randy's game and become problematic for him. I think it was in the second round that he actually kicked him, and he fell over to his back as well. So that leg was really giving him jip. But that knee that led to the finish was just absolutely superb. Luque is right back in there, right back in the mix. So I think didn't he lose his last fight, Luque? I think we covered this. I believe he lost his. I'm just trying to remember who he was fighting against, but it was a real war. And Luque was impressing me up until the fact that he ended up losing that fight. But he was fighting really well in that fight, from what I remember. But a perfect strategy for this guy, because that could have been a very, very difficult night for him. But he stuck true to the plan that they clearly had for him, and it was working from the get-go. And it was for Randy Brown to try and find a way around. And he couldn't. I think by the time he could have thought of a way around the fact that he was having his shin hacked into, it was becoming all too late. There was damage done to it, and it hindered him, right up until the end.
Yeah, so he fought Nico Price on May the 9th, 2020. He won that by a technical knockout due to a doctor stoppage in round 3.
Oh, okay. I must have missed that one. I missed that one somehow, so perhaps I didn't give that one coverage.
He lost by unanimous decision to Wonderboy Thompson on November the 2nd in last year. So
that's the one I remember.
But he's fought some big guys. He's fought Mike Perry, Neil Magny, Stephen Thompson. Fought some real big guys, and he didn't fight Magny. Magny pulled out and he fought Krantz. But he beat Krantz. He beat Mike Perry. He lost to Wonderboy. He's beaten some big guys. He beat Nico Price. And I thought he looked pretty good in this. Randy Brown, by no means a mug. Looked all right.
Randy Brown can be a nightmare for anybody. Once he starts establishing himself with the striking, he's a real nightmare. He starts looking very, very convincing. He just couldn't get off on the right foot, and it was because of the strategy to hack in on that lead leg. I know we've seen this time and time again in bouts, but there's a time to do it and a time not to do it. And Luque, this was absolutely the right opponent to do it to, and it led to the victory as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, so the co-main event, Joanne Calderwood, Scottish lady, been doing very, very well. Very well, most recently. She's ranked number 3, the favourite, faced number 6 ranked Jennifer Maia. As we mentioned at the top of the show, Joanne Calderwood actually collapsed after the show. She was taken to hospital, but she's in stable condition. I would imagine it was like a blood pressure issue, probably, which is common within, sports and particularly fighting where there's weight cutting and things like this involved. So hopefully she's fine, and hopefully she's going to come back, because she's ranked number 3 in the flyweights before this fight. She's really built a good reputation for herself in the UFC, kind of under the radar as well. We talk about the British stars, and we want to really, we want to get a British champion, and maybe she could be the best bet, or at least I thought she was going to be. Last night did not go to plan for her in many ways.
Yeah, I mean, it was looking good. She was looking really solid with her striking. She caught Mia's kick and done a lovely leg trip to take her down. But Mia caught her arm up in a little bit more of an unusual position than you normally see. She really caught up that right arm and was getting the feet on the hip and looking like she was trying to transition at some point to a triangle. But Calderwood was doing a good job of not allowing herself to get caught that deep into the triangle. But clearly Maia's really, really good off her back, and she started swinging up for that armbar. And all the time it looked like Calderwood was going to get out. I thought, she's okay. Even to a point where she got taken over to her back, it looked like she was going to run out. But she got reeled back in, and the finish happened. And I was a little surprised, but you can't take anything away from Maia. I mean, she was working from her back. She wasn't trying to scramble up. She had confidence with her guard, and she looked like she was trying to be aggressive. She wasn't even looking to do reverse ground and pound. She was clearly confident in her hips, switching out. Like I say, looking to try to get the hips up for that triangle, which wasn't quite there because Calderwood was really defending quite well. But she snaked her hips really lovely.
Yeah, Sorry, mate. I was going to say she invoked her namesake, Damian Maia, way she was looking for those submissions. And it's interesting because she comes from boxing. She's a professional boxer before she moved into MMA. So it's interesting that she's clearly confident and strong with the submissions over the striking.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, she potentially shown she could be the full package because, striking is good. Striking is very, very sound. Okay, she got taken down, but she didn't look to hunt, to scramble up. She was happy to be off her back and effective, in doing so. She kept control of one arm throughout, so therefore had control of any ground and pound being put on herself. Doing all the right type of things to be an efficient grappler off the back. I'm not saying that that's where her go-to should be. I definitely think that fighting off your back is a situation you have to deal with if you're put there and can't get up for whatever reason. But she showed confidence and she utterly proved herself there. To go from one attack into another, go to show that she knew something that we didn't about her grappling ability, and that she was good enough to put someone away in the first round who's quite highly touted. So fair play to her. She's on the march upwards and could well be seeing a contender in the making here.
Yeah, it's interesting with Calderwood as well. She was 9-0 coming into the UFC up to the Ultimate Fighter. And then the first fight after the Ultimate Fighter, she lost. Then she won 2. Then she lost to Jessica Andrade and Cynthia Calvillo, both big names. Then she won a couple. Then she lost. Then she won. Then she lost. So she's been very kind of up and down in the UFC, but she's worked her way up the rankings. She's ranked number 3. I don't know if that says that the rankings are not strong because she has lost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 fights now in the UFC.
Right.
But she's also, she's won 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So she's like 6-5, which is not a great record by any means. It's not terrible.
Yeah.
There's much worse, records out there.
Sure.
But it's not necessarily a record that I'm looking at and thinking, she's the next big thing for the UK.
Yeah.
She's ranked number 3. She's she struggled last night. I got to be honest. She looked all right. She took it down. She looked pretty strong to there. I didn't, knowing the little bit I knew about Maia before the fight and what I knew of Calderwood, which is a little bit more, I didn't understand why she went for the takedown. Like, Calderwood is an incredible kickboxer. Her kickboxing record is sensational. I think it's 19-2. Like, she was on a ridiculous streak of, I think, 10-0, and, you know, something stupid. She's an exceptional kickboxer. I didn't understand why she took her down, knowing that Maia Brazil comes, you know, she's Brazilian. She's renowned, or she's at least known that she's got a good submission game on her back. She doesn't mind being on her back. I thought it was a mistake to take her down. And ultimately she paid for it. But, you know, what do I know?
No, you know what? You're probably right in hindsight. I think the camp will look back and be like, hey, you know, you could take someone down, but don't mean you have to go down with them.
Yeah.
I just think the takedown was there because she caught the kick, and it was just an instinctual reaction to kick her off her feet. But the mistake, which, you know, I'm in agreement with
down,
you.
wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. You can score the takedown and stand over someone, kick their legs a little bit, try and make it score in terms of the judges, and consume some of that round in terms of like a good 30 seconds to a minute, trying to absorb that round where you're in a proactive, positive position. Again, for the judges. And to take away the remaining time left for your opponent to try to play catch up, sort of thing. But yeah, I absolutely agree. She perhaps should not have gone down with her and relied on her emphatic striking. Like I say, the other girl's got really, really sound striking too, but to me, Calderwood was more well-rounded, and she had that reach and range advantage as well, which I think would have served her well.
Like,
Yeah,
she did some good. She had a couple of, you know, good kicking combos, some low kicks. She was throwing some nice combos. She nice left hook as well. And I was just thinking, yes, you know, Maia's got, you know, she's a great boxer, but I felt Calderwood could have used her reach and her height advantage and her kickboxing background and probably won the fight comfortably that way by keeping a distance.
I agree.
You never know if you get that KO with those kicks and the distance, but you know you're going to win the fight because you're going to outpoint your opponent.
Yeah. I think her herself and the team have come away with a little lesson learned here. And I think they will be making the adjustments, and I just think you'll see a more seasoned, a more mature, more experienced version of Calderwood next time around. I don't think you'll be seeing her pull that kind of game plan off when it's not needed to. When you've got striking as good as she has, we're going to see her back, and we're going to see her rebuild herself without a shadow of a doubt. And you're right, you know, the women's division is a little sparse. It's easy to climb up quite quickly, and we'll see her back up there. And I'm sure she'll be fighting Maia again in the future, and probably with a different result. I'd say it's all for her to win if she gets her game plan down to a T.
Yeah, and at the end of the day, like, her record shows that she responds to loss quite well. I think she's only lost 2 in a row once. And they were to 2 big names as well. So I think, you know, she can come back, and she's ranked 3rd, you know, a couple of wins, and she's in the title picture at the end of the day. So she just needs to you know, crack on, make sure she's her plan is correct. So the main event was Derek Brunson versus, who's ranked number 8 versus ranked number 9, Edmund Shabazyan. You will hear me, Danny, for the first time criticize a fighter. I am not a fan of Edmund Shabazyan. He did a bit of coaching for Ronda Rousey, and I think he did more harm than good, shall we say, to her camps and stuff. If you watch back her fights, when he became involved later in her career with her striking, I think he was a striking coach. I might be wrong. Sorry.
I believe he was,
her just went to pot. And I don't think it's a coincidence that she struggled in the latter part of her UFC career, and that's where the change happened. I also was not happy after, just before the end of the fight, when he came out for that round, that final round, the 3rd round. he did not look like he wanted to be in there at all.
No, he looked exhausted. He looked tired. He looked
Yeah,
not
he just
fit.
looked, but he looked
not fit enough.
like body language, everything just looked like I'm done. And that worries me in a fight when a fighter is like that, because I think, in my opinion, having not, I'm not a coach, I'm not a fighter, I'm not even a journalist, but that worries me because I think that's how people get hurt, like seriously hurt.
Yeah, I'm actually completely agreeing, and it was well observed by you there. He had his hands stretched on the top of the cage, and to me, that's not like looking like someone who's wanting to engage in battle again. I think just it was something was amiss there. I think he was exhausted. I think he was hurting at this point, and I think the doubts had really crept in. I think he felt some of Derek Brunson's power and strength. I mean, the guy's strong and he's a bloody good wrestler, and he was becoming more and more effective as the bout was going on. I think Edmund, he had a reasonable first round. He was able to scramble back to his feet. But that second round, you started to notice he looked fatigued. He still had a lot of zap on his punches, still looked, potentially dangerous. He was looking for the knee as well. But when he was looking for a knee, it was sometimes kind of getting him too engaged with Bronson's wrestling. And once Brunson began to smother him and started getting into what we consider his comfort zone, he was becoming more efficient. And Edmund just started to look more and more bedraggled. And going into that third round, he just looked like he just didn't want to be there. It looked like the end was just waiting to happen. The way he got taken down was, quite weak as well. He was taken down with not anything too technical. He was just sort of like thrown to the ground, and the way he fell down looked just so negative. And then very, very quickly, the end ensued. Derek Brunson, though, that's not taking away anything from him. He utterly looking impressive. His striking looks a little awkward, but maybe that's because Edmund throws with some vigour and made him not feel so comfortable there. So he looks a little uncomfortable on his feet at times. But when you've got a wrestling as good as he has, hey, you can always just keep shooting in. And he really impresses me there. His ground was a little clumsy in that first round when he tried to take his back. He didn't engage one hook very, very well, and he allowed Edmund on. He kind of like allowed him up a little bit too easily. So although he's got good wrestling, he's got good capabilities to take someone down on the ground, he can choose the way he does his jiu-jitsu to keep someone engaged in the ground scenario a little bit better than he did. But I'm sure we're going to see him keep evolving and keep improving. I still think he's a potential prospect to be one of the top-ranked fighters in the world. So I'm really happy for Derek Brunson. As for Edmund, I think he's been found out somewhat here. I think you could possibly see his record suffer. I'm kind of curious to know whether he'll fight again because of his persona in that third round. Interesting. I don't know whether there's been a statement released by him at all, but kind of interesting what he's got to say for himself at the end of that one.
So a couple of things. First of all, I got him mixed up with someone else when I was referring to Ronda Rousey's striking coach.
Okay.
The coach was Edmund Tavadian or Tavadian.
Okay.
So I apologize for that. That's my bad. I got the two mixed up because they got similar names. Because he's only young, which is what made me think if I got that right.
It didn't. He hasn't had any MMA fights, right? This other coach.
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's why I was kind of surprised. I thought, okay, crikey, this guy's got under my radar and didn't realise.
Yeah, no, that's my fault. It's because they got similar names. But Edmund Shabazyan, look, he's well rated by people.
Yeah, he was.
The hype train is real, but Ronda is his manager. So whether that hype has been steered a little bit by that camp, I don't know. But I will say he's been very, very impressive up till last night. Last night was not. He has released a statement following his loss. Let's have a look what he said. He said, "I'm okay, just need some stitches. Thank you for all the messages. Congrats to Derek Brunson. He did a great job. No excuses. It's the fight game. I'll be back. Blessed." So,
okay.
It's just a weird one, wasn't it?
It was a weird one, but I think the parts where he began to break Edmund's will was from those wrestling exchanges when, and this is what impressed me about Derek, was when he chose to let go of the takedown attempt when it wasn't quite there. He would let go and go into a really harsh flurry of punches. So I think outwardly, Edmund was looking better than Derek Bronson. John Brunson didn't look too comfortable. But off the break from a wrestling exchange, Derek Bronson looked quite dangerous. And I think this is part of what took away their energy levels and created the anxiety in Edmund's game that started to make him tire and look fatigued and then look really, really fragile in wrestling and grappling exchanges. But to me, it was when he was on the fence being struck that his striking wasn't looking so effective. He's clearly an outward striker and not such a comfortable inward fighter. And when I say inward, I don't mean in the pocket out in the open. I mean inward as in being pushed with your back up against the fence. He was almost looking away and looking down to one side, which is not the correct thing to do when someone's attacking you with strikes when your back's against the fence. This is just not the right thing. And this is why he's getting his back taken, because he was showing the back panel of his back by putting his head down to one angle. And Bronson was he's giving the back take from the feet, which is why he's throwing him down. And he looked like a little boy on the ground. He really did. It just looked like the dad had the 13-year-old teenager son on the floor giving him a good old dig. He just looked so exhausted when he was trying to go to that turtle position. It just didn't look good for him.
No, I think it could be something like he wasn't as fit as normal because of the restrictions with lockdown and things like this.
Possibly.
He's looked impressive up until last night. But Derek Brunson's a big dude. He's a very, very experienced fighter as well. Did his job well, finished the fight well. Pretty good. I enjoyed the show overall. And just finally, to finish off, last week we discussed about Dan Hardy confronting Herb Dean after Jai Herbert's fight. Dana White has commented briefly on that, and he's just basically said, if you work for me and you approach a judge or a referee or any type of official, I will fire you. You will lose your job and you will never work for me again if you do that. So I think that's laying down the law. And in fairness to Dana White, he's got a history of, there's been 2 fighters, I believe, who've shoved referees after fights and they were fired straight away. And one of them was quite a big, he was on a bit of a hot streak. What was his name? Oh, I forgot his name. But it is what it is, I suppose. I understand Dan Hardy being a bit hot. Yeah. But Jason High was the one, he shoved the referee after 2014, I think it was. Just after a fight, he was frustrated. He was suspended for 12 months by the governing bodies, but UFC fired him. Is or is, you can't do it.
And rightly so. I mean, the referees are there at the end of the day to try and do their job the best they can. They don't always get it right. One thing you can't go doing is pushing and shoving them. Okay, so Dan Hardy was a bit vocal, but Herb Dean did say that there's only 2 people in position to say anything to him while he's in there, which was news to me because I didn't know how it worked in the ins and outs. So it's quite good to get some added information on how things work for referees. I think he defended his point and his opinion quite well. I think Dan Hardy should have perhaps approached it a little differently and maybe done it through tweets afterwards, to create a discussion. I think, look, when you want to make changes or you don't agree with something, it's all done through discussion. And it can be done gentlemanly, but to flip your lid there and then at the moment perhaps wasn't the most correct way of approaching it. I hope that they don't sack Dan Hardy though, because I think he's one of the best commentators there. He's and it's really surprised me because I knew of him as a fighter on the circuit, and I always knew him to just be fighter mentality. And I don't mean to say that fighters are not intelligent or anything like that, but I was really surprised how well he come over on the mic and how well he breaks down fights. The guy's, clearly
exceptional.
Yeah, and like I say, one of the best out there. He totally made my eyes eyebrows rise when I started hearing him. I was like, wow, I didn't expect that from him.
I wish the UFC would use him more, like they use Bisping, because I think he's very, very good. Bisping also good, but Dan does impress me. He comes across very, very well every time. Yes, both guys on my list to try and get on the podcast and the channel, actually, because I'd love to speak to both guys. And then finally, Dana White has also criticised the referee of the main event, which we just talked about, Brunson and Shabazyan, because he felt that Edmund Shabazyan went briefly unconscious at the end of the second round when the buzzer went,
really?
and he got caught by the elbow. He thought that the doctor should have stopped it, but I think what Edmund Shabazyan's corner did quite well is they got him in the corner quick, they sat him up, they iced him down and did all that. And they did it all. They did their bit before the doctor spoke to him.
Right. Okay.
And I think really the doctor probably should have spoken to him, and then they did their kind of bits, which, is clever. You got
but again, look, in between rounds, you got 1 minute to act and
you got
get
to
things
just get
done.
it done, haven't you?
You're never going to have a perfect judgment on what's going on. I mean, you could do the best as you can. Okay, so the cornerman, they got him set up and they got him all coherent, and then the doctor come in. So in hindsight, okay, if the doctor went in first, this is all too easy to say after the event, but that's 1 minute to sort things out. I mean, trust me, being in the corner can be quite stressful. And in fact, you might notice that I don't go in the cage anymore. I used to, but I don't anymore. I find I get caught up in the anxiety and the stress of the situation too much whereas when I sit outside, I feel like it's watching it from a screen. I feel detached more emotionally. Of course, I'm emotionally invested because my students are my friends and I want the best for them and so on and so forth. But when I step foot in the cage and I go in there and I'm in the environment of the cage and I'm seeing them face to face, I'm close, I can smell the blood on their breath, and I find I get too caught up and then I'm not so strategical. So, like I say,
you get
1 minute
flashbacks, don't you, to when you used to fight?
Absolutely. And when a fighter's really had a real tough round, man, that's stressful in that corner. You're trying to turn around from feeling, negative and things are falling apart, trying to pep them up to stay positive, trying to tell them some home truths to try to steer the fight in the right direction. Man, it's mayhem in the corner sometimes. Don't get me wrong, you get your smooth cornerman times as well, but not always.
You've got to get as much done, haven't you, in a minute. Jennifer Maia is having a flyweight title shot versus Valentina Shevchenko, which that'll be an interesting one.
Absolutely. Yeah, that will be interesting.
What else we got? Joanne Calderwood has issued a statement just saying she's all right. Bad night at the office. What else we got? Don't think there's anything else on there. Let's see if there's anything which sticks out. No, nothing. Nothing too good. Next week is, I can't remember what I said. Who did I say?
We've got some good ones coming up. We've got some good ones coming up.
DC and Stipe is 2 weeks yesterday, or 2 weeks time, on August 16th. August 15th for us in the UK. Next week is Derek Lewis versus Ilonyanak, which will be that'll be a good one. Derek Lewis is always entertaining.
He's just going to throw down every single time, isn't he?
Yeah, let's have a look. Chris Weidman's also on the card. Darren Stewart.
Yeah, Chris Weidman, I'm kind of curious because he's had a real bad run of late. When you think of his time when he beat Anderson Silva twice, he was flying higher than the highest height right at the time. And he kind of really crashed and burned recently. But I'd really rate his skill set. And you can't say that he gets unlucky in bouts, but he's always doing so well. And then something just happens in the bout and it falls apart very, very quickly for him. It's kind of, I think he could have one more good run if he can just pick up momentum. So I'm really hopeful and really curious to see how he's going to be performing.
There's a couple of other fighters. Benil Darush is on the main card as well. I'm looking forward to him. Darren Stewart, also two good fighters, which are looking forward to their fights. And there was someone on the prelims who I quite like watching. Tim Means is fighting Star Poli, which I rate him. Really, and Andrew Sanchez as well. So there's some good stuff. Gavin Tucker as well. Oh, I didn't a couple of good prelim fights on there as well. Excellent.
Maybe we can take those ones in as well. Get a chance.
Man. Excellent. Okay, Danny, thank you, mate, for joining me. I appreciate also that you're on holiday and you're still finding time for us. I will piece this together as we've darted from Zoom, from StreamYards, and
I mean, I'm
all
sure
together.
you'll paste it in to make it look like it went smooth, but it's been really difficult tonight. The Wi-Fi connection, the kind of location I'm in, we're up in the mountains, and we get some stormy weather when the weather's been hot. Sometimes you get some storms come over, and it just hammers the Wi-Fi. So yeah, me and you have had a hectic of an evening.
Yeah, it's been fun. But no, it's always fun, mate. It's always good. I appreciate your time as ever. Guys, subscribe, youtube.com/Ace Podcast Nation. The Danny Batten Fight Show every single Wednesday drops, and we do the occasional live show as well. And if the UFC do some midweek shows, we do a couple of live shows in the same week. But we've always got new guests and analysts popping up to give us some different voices. And of course, you could send your questions in as ever to the social media links in the description. Spread the word, the Danny Batten Fight Show. And of course, check out Away Day Apparel. You can get 10% off by using the code AA Podcast Nation. And you can find all their latest offers at www.awaydayapparel.co.uk, and also find them on Twitter at awaydayapparel and Instagram at awayday_apparel. And they got some great stuff, some big things happening with them. And check out them, because we thank them for sponsoring the Danny Batten Fight Show as always. And Danny, it's been a pleasure. And we will see you next Wednesday, people.
Defending champion, welcome